The pre-constructed deck Phantom Premonition is pretty good right out of the box, but I think that there are 10 cards that we can swap out for under $20 to make it immediately more competitive. Let's look at a 10 card $20 upgrade for the pre-constructed deck Phantom Premonition, and the video starts right now.
Special thanks to our Patreon supporters who power our channel. Check out our Patreon for monthly giveaways, exclusive content, and even a starring role in our fan fight series. Link in the description below.
Hello and welcome to the day. Thank you for spending your time with us. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. I am Joel. We're going to upgrade the pre-constructed deck Phantom Premonition and see how we can make it more competitive for not a lot of money. But first, if you would, go down there, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. Let's look at this deck. The commander of this deck is Ranar the Ever-Watchful. We've got a commander that plays with Foretell, which is a mechanic from Kaldheim. We've got a commander that is looking for exiling cards from our hand or from the battlefield to then create 1/1 spirit flying creature tokens, which is just excellent residual value. So there's like 3 lines of thinking that the pre-constructed deck is built around that we can play into. The first is cards with great enter the battlefield abilities. If we're going to be blinking creatures, we want them like Sun Titan to have strong ETBs so that we can take advantage of those effects over and over again. We also have the need for blink effects to happen. Cards like Soul Herder that say at the beginning of your end step you may exile another target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield. We need more cards that do that, as many as we can feasibly put in here, so that when we do have good ETB creatures on the battlefield, we can blink them and get those ETBs again, or dodge targeted removal. Another thing that this deck also does is plays well with flying creatures. Ranar is going to be creating a bunch of 1/1 spirit creature tokens that fly, so we might as well lean into that a little bit, because with a bunch of flying creatures in the air, just one Anthem of +1/+1 can really make a difference. If you've got 10 flying power on the battlefield, all of a sudden that's 20 in the air, pretty difficult to block. That could be very strong. Thinking along those lines, let's go through 10 cards that we could swap out and their values so that I can show you how to upgrade this deck immediately. First off, let's look at the card Mistraven. Mistraven is really good, but it doesn't quite do enough, and there are, $1 cards that are very strong that we could swap out with Mistraven. You can see the strategy though. It's entering the battlefield, it's returning a creature card to its owner's hand. I'd like this if it had flash, but the ability to only do it at sorcery speed is fine at best. It really plays with the strategy, but it's not exiling a card from the battlefield, and so it's not getting us that 1/1 spirit token that we want. We will get the ETB off that creature that we return. So let's take Mistraven out, and we're going to put in its place Duplicant. It is a 6-cost creature, so it's only 2 more mana, but it's got this ETB, you may exile target non-token creature. With all of the synergy that we've got in this deck, taking advantage of creatures enters the battlefield abilities and then having those trigger again from blink effects, Duplicant entering the battlefield, removing a creature completely, just exiling a non-token creature, is pretty excellent. I love this card in it, and it's only $1 to make that swap from Mistraven to Duplicant. The next card up is Marshal's Anthem. It's a 4-cost creatures you control get +1/+1. I just don't think it's a good return for your mana spent here. So you can return creatures, but it just starts getting really expensive. With an effect like this, if all we're really going for is the Anthem anyway, let's just put Drogskull Captain in here. It's a 50-cent uncommon, but it's going to give our commander hexproof and other spirit creatures we control hexproof, which is awesome. We're going to dodge targeted removal, and we get the +1/+1 on our creatures that fly, our spirit creature tokens anyway, which is kind of what we wanted from the Marshal's Anthem. So for just 50 cents, we can make that switch. It's only 3 mana, much more efficient, and we're going to get almost the same value out of it. We also see Day of the Dragons in this commander deck. This is an interesting inclusion in the precon, and I like it. I get what it's intending to do. When it enters the battlefield, exile all creatures you control. You get 5/5 dragons for each of those. Ranar's going to trigger, then also create spirit creature tokens. And then when it leaves, you sacrifice all your dragons and you return the exiled cards back so you can get the ETBs. This deck doesn't have a ton of ability to sacrifice its own enchantments or get rid of them, so we have to kind of not worry about that bottom part there. But, for 4, 5, 6, 7 mana just to pull off this effect, it's a little expensive. as far as mana cost goes, and I think we can do something better, which is just protect our line. It's sort of a board wipe prevention, or, you know, getting around a board wipe with Day of Dragons, because we know that if it leaves, our creatures that have been exiled will come back. But we can just, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn straight up. Plus it's a spirit, so it'll play with any spirit synergies we've got going. This is an expensive card. This is a $7 card currently, and so it's the most expensive one that I'm going to go over on the list today. But I think that it's hugely worth it, because anytime that there's a board wipe with Selfless Spirit on the battlefield, sack it, your creatures survive, and you're good to go. They've essentially got to answer that first. Stormherd is in here, and I see this card pop up in these precon decks all the time. 10 mana to create X 1/1 flyers, where X is your life total. That sounds great, but at 10 mana, I just don't like the ability for, you know, us to play this 10 mana spell and then our opponents play one like 3 or 4 mana board wipe, and suddenly our 10 mana investment is just gone. It's like a cool card, it's like a fun splashy card, but we can be a little more competitive with what we want to choose. And so let's just go with Entreat the Angels, that miracle cost of 2 mana and then X, and then all of our flyers that we do end up creating have much higher power. I would rather just run this card in this deck over Stormherd. It's a $1 upgrade on that, and like I said, I prefer the mana efficiency here. 3 mana to get a 4/4 flyer, 4 mana to get 2 4/4 flyers if you're casting at miracle cost. This is the avenue I would rather go if we're going to run a card like Stormherd, and I just wanted to kind of swap it out like for like, but with a more mana efficient or more just efficient version of that card. So Entreat the Angels over Stormherd for sure. We've got Windfall, and I love Windfall. However, in this deck, each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. We're not exiling it. We want to be exiling with Ranar. We want as much as possible for the cards that we play to play with the, you know, passive abilities of our commander, if that's what we're going to do. But for Windfall, I think we can just swap this out for Reconnaissance Mission. It's a $1 card. It cycles away if you don't need it, and whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Windfall is refilling our hand if we get low and we have an opponent who's really high, but Reconnaissance Mission with a bunch of 1/1 flyers in the air, we're gonna get some damage through. All we got to do to ping with our little spirit tokens. We don't care if they're flying and dying. We're gonna get to draw cards if any of them connect. I really like Reconnaissance Mission, especially because it's only 4 mana and you can cycle it away if you don't want it. Tales of the Ancestors, a new card that actually came in this precon, was specifically made for this pre-constructed deck, so I get that it's a little strange that I'm like, let's take that one out. But for 4 mana sorcery, each player with fewer cards in hand than the player with the most cards in hand draws cards equal to the difference. So again, it's these group HUD sort of effects that I'm not really a huge fan of unless we're building a straight up group hug deck. I get that it has Foretell as well, but with a card like Tales of Ancestors, let's just swap it out for Sphinx's Revelation. It's an instant speed, end of your opponent's turn, gain X life, draw X cards, just dump a lot of mana into it, and you can refill your hand that way. And we don't give, you know, an opponent who's already out of cards in their hand the ability to get back in the game, potentially. If you just want to draw a spell, Sphinx's Revelation is only $2. I love that it's instant speed, and you should swap that card out. I talked about we want cards with enters the battlefield abilities, and Burnished Heart does not have that. It's a great ramp spell on an artifact creature, but if we just want an ETB creature that'll do this, Solemn Simulacrum is only $1 and should automatically be swapped out for Burnished Heart. Enters the battlefield, go get a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and when it dies, you draw a card. If you can blink this card, you're getting more and more lands, and when it dies, it replaces itself with an extra card going into your hand. So I really think that Solemn Simulacrum should be swapped out for Burnished Heart. Golden Knight Commander's another one. This card is fine, and it's got the potential to really pop off. For 4 mana, you've got a 2/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Normally, I wouldn't like this card, but with Ranar passively creating these tokens, Golden Knight is going to have the ability to hit quite strongly sometimes. It is, however, just a 2/2 for 4 otherwise, and it really needs a lot of other little things clicking to be very valuable to us. So let's run Yoriyan. Yoriyan Sky Nomad's $2. It can go in your 99. When it enters the battlefield, exile any number of non-land permanents you control. Return those cards to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. Anything with an enters the battlefield, we get that enters the battlefield again. Renar's going to see that these cards are being exiled from our battlefield, and we're going to get the spirit token trigger. Yoriyan absolutely for $2 goes in to me over Golden Knight Commander. It's also a 4/5 flyer, so it plays with some of the flying synergy like Thunderclap Wyvern that we were looking at earlier. I just like Yoriyan in this deck a lot more because you're at least if one or two cards are on the battlefield with ETBs, you're at least going to get some extra value off of those, and you don't have to have like a big attacking board like Gold Knight Commander really wants you to have. Evangel of Heliod is kind of similar to me. 6 mana for a 1/3, enters the battlefield, put a number of 1/1 soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield equal to your devotion to white. I get this, but it's creating them on the ground, and we want flying tokens. We're going to specifically lean into the synergy of having anthems in the air that grow our little 1/1 flyers, and Evangel of Heliod doesn't play well with that. It's a decent enters the battlefield, but at 6 mana, I think it's a little expensive even for what it does. So let's swap that out for Drugskoll Cavalry. You've got 4 mana ability activated down there to put an additional 1/1 flyer onto the battlefield, and you're going to be gaining life whenever spirits are entering the battlefield under your control because Ranar is going to be creating those. This is a 50-cent rare, super cheap to take this, put it in place of Evangel of Heliod, and have 1/1 flyers be entering your battlefield instead of 1/1 tokens on the ground. The last card I wanted to look at is Cloud Goat Ranger, a 5 for a 3/3, and it's very similar to me to Evangel of Heliod. Whenever it enters the battlefield, put 3 1/1 creature soldiers onto the battlefield, tap 3, untap Kithkin, it gets +2/+0 and gains flying. I just don't think that this is impactful enough. Again, I get it because you can blink it and get more tokens on the battlefield, but there are ways to do that and get our 1/1 flying tokens onto the battlefield that we can do on things that aren't even creatures. Spirit bonds, enchantments are stickier, and this says whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, so when your board gets wiped or something gets targeted removal, you may pay 1 white, and if you do, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Plus it's got the passive ability here, the activated ability, excuse me, pay 2, sack a spirit, target non-spirit creature gains indestructible until end of turn. So you're not going to be using that a ton if you've got a lot of creatures on the battlefield that are just spirits and you're really leaning into that tribe. But if you're leaning into just good ETB creatures and running things like Sun Titan, running things like Agent of Treachery, this card becomes way more valuable because it can save those cards. Unfortunately, it's not going to be able to save our commander because our commander is a spirit, but just that passive ability to pay 1, have a 1/1 flyer enter your battlefield, sack spirits to make other creatures indestructible. Very, very worth it. 50 cents for this card, and it plays more synergistically than Cloud Goat Ranger does at all. So those are the 10 cards that I would swap out. I want to real quick look at 3 cards that should be on your radar. They're a little bit more expensive than would have made the cut to make this an under $20 upgrade here. The first of which is Venser Sojourner. This is a $7 card, 5 mana for a 3 loyalty walker, but that +2 exile target permanent you own, return it to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. That's everything we want. I love too that just for -1, immediately when you play Venser, you can activate this on that turn. Creatures are unblockable this turn. So if we just need to get one big attack through, we've been building up our line, but we're at a stalemate with the board or something, Venser can make all of our creatures unblockable and we can really punch through and win the game. That's a $7 card, like I said. We've also got Ghostway. This is an instant. It's very similar to Teferi's Protection, except for the keywords trigger with our synergies. 3 mana for an instant. Remove each creature you control from the game. Return those creatures to play under their owner's control at end of turn. So this is exiling things from the battlefield, which is what Ranar's looking for. And we will be getting those spirit tokens from that activation. This is a $13 card currently. So just keep this on your radar as, further cards to look at as you upgrade this deck continuously. And lastly, I want to look at Luminark Ascension. This card is fantastic in this deck. Creating 1/1 blockers, you're going to have flyers in the air, so you'll be pretty much blocking any creature that could come through. And it's checking to see if you didn't lose life this turn. So on your opponent's end step, they've got to do some damage to you, which means we need some blockers or some protection. But once we've achieved getting the quest counters on there, we can pay 2 to create 4/4 flyers, which with the rest of our flying synergy and just in and of itself is very, very strong in a deck that'll probably be pretty good at protecting itself just because we can block air creatures, ground creatures, doesn't matter because of our spirit token flyers. That's how I would upgrade Phantom Premonition. Let's close the book. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know the cards that you're going to put into Ranar Phantom Premonition. This is actually a really good pre-constructed deck right out of the box, and with a little bit of tweaking, you can completely lean into some of the synergies that they built into the deck and really make it competitive. While you're down in the comments, let me know what cards I missed. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you like the video. Other than that, I'm tapped out, and I'll catch you later.